Everyone, it's BlackHighPriestess. Hope you guys can hear me. It's kind of early in the morning. I spent the last 4 hours trying to figure out why my Instagram reel remix wasn't working, because I wanted to remix two reels, and I realized that my feature wasn't working, and I researched a lot of tutorials, and then I realized there's some gatekeeping going on, but that's not why I wanted to go live. Um, I did not figure out how to get the remixes to work properly. Um, so I'm going to talk about them here, and when I do, I will post them on Instagram. I feel like my YouTube audience is a bit more spiritual. So I feel like it can be a little more intimate with you guys, and you guys tend to engage also, especially with spiritual topics. So those of you who are new followers, especially if you're following me because of the video of my grandmother dancing at her 80th birthday, welcome. I do talk about esoteric spiritual topics. So if you're Christian, don't be shocked. So am I. But I just deal with the supernatural energies that the Bible talks about, but doesn't, but a lot of your pastors won't. So the purpose of this upload that I wanted to start 4 hours ago. Um, all right, well, ladies first. All right, for the heavy topic first. A woman made a reel um saying how she was sick of performing femininity for the patriarchy, namely things like being nice, being polite, um, conforming to the expectations of femininity, um, not setting too many boundaries, not, um, speaking your mind too much. These are some of the things that she mentioned when she talked about performing femininity. And she, mentioned for the patriarchy and how she felt so much better when she stopped doing those things. And I wanted to do a remix because I wanted to respond to it. And at first I was going to, because she used the term performing femininity, I was really going to kind of like reel, for lack of a, pun intended. I was really going to like reel in and just kind of address the liberal agenda. But then as, my technology wasn't working per usual, peace Blake, I started to think and I realized this is a white woman. And as you all know, that I'm not really in support of the liberal agenda and the agendas that have to do with that, and how it actually contributes to oppression of black people and women and things like that. However, um realizing that she was white and and recognizing like white women's issues with patriarchy, I had to stop and recognize, and I want to address. My first thought was, if you feel like you're performing femininity, you're just not feminine. If you don't enjoy being polite, if you don't enjoy being nice, if you don't enjoy being soft spoken, if you don't enjoy being pleasant to be around instead of rude, unruly, and bothersome, you're not feminine. And it's okay to be a butch, masculine, bull dagger, whatever you want to call it. It's okay to not be feminine. It's okay to be a masculine woman. Live and let live. Everyone doesn't have to be feminine. Um, but recognize, if you feel like you have to perform these character traits that should not just belong to women, that everyone should have when you're in public, when you're civilized. when especially when you're at a workplace or when you're in environments that just require you to behave civilized and be at your on your best behavior. When if you don't enjoy being like that, you need to really think about who you are and what your real issue is. And this is why I had to really recognize that she's white, because when I look at white women's issue with patriarchy and their issues with having to be be marginalized into this uber feminine role, I understand that they look at what black women and women of color, who are loud spoken, you know, challenge men, who, hyper independent, overweight and don't care, ugly and don't care, fake features, look bad and don't care, don't fit the standard of beauty, ain't trying to. And, in a lot of cases, as a black woman, it's very hard to fit a white European, Swedish, namely, standard of beauty that we still kind of have in America. However, when I had to step back and realize this is the white woman who does deal with patriarchy in ways that black women don't have to deal with. And because of that, I had to take my disdain for the liberal agenda away from seeing her as, again, a woman with a nose ring and a side cut hair, looking like she prefers women, looking like your ultimate issue is that you prefer women and you're not really a feminine woman, and you don't really like men that much, because at the end of the day, women who are genuinely feminine don't have a problem being uber feminine, and don't have a problem being docile among men. So at the end of the day, just a lot of you women have penis envy. You don't like men, and you're blaming a patriarchal system. And I want to offer, especially to white women who may be listening, but I know that's probably not necessarily my main audience. However, white women, you all need to understand something. Matriarchal culture, where there is no masculinity in the home, where there is no male leadership, the result of the lack of patriarchy is unruly women, is hyper independent women who have to work, because the men will not take on any responsibilities. So these women are heads of the household and they behave like men in and out of public. The result of it is bastards and boys that are raised with feminine traits, where they can't really function in society without a woman doing everything for them because they didn't have a father in the home. The result of lack of patriarchy is the entire world, having what we now call black fatigue, because everywhere non-black people go, and where black people go, you have black people making the whole black race look bad, because the women don't know how to dress, don't know how to act, don't know how to stay fit so they can compete with the standards of beauty around the world, don't know how to respect men at all whatsoever, which means have no respect for authority. And when you have no respect for authority, you go in places like the airport, or businesses or grocery stores or restaurants, and you behave unruly and violently and ignorantly and with a lot of entitlement and very little class. And black fatigue is a result of a lack of patriarchy. It's a result of lack of masculinity ruling in our communities. And a lot of you white, and this is the thing with you white women, you are so desperate to break away from the privilege that your men have given you through patriarchy. And not only are you white women privileged all over the world, patriarchy keeps structure all over the world. And I'm not saying that there are not instances of matriarchy, mostly more so tribal and indigenous. But in modern times, When you get matriarchy, it's because you're getting impoverished people, you're getting slave descendants. Peace, everyone. Dave and Hagen, everyone listening. When you have lack of patriarchy, you're talking about lack of discipline. And when it's taken out of the indigenous context, where indigenous black and brown and even white in some instances, cultures and tribes where there was natural civilization and you weren't dealing with colonial patriarchy, with colonialism, where one particular culture is imposed on other cultures that were functioning just fine without it. That's colonialism. And you white women compare yourselves to other women so much, and all women do. And I'm not trying to get at women, but this is an issue with women. And I have to recognize she's white, not just, and this is the thing, it's white, it's you white privileged people who are liberals. It is not oppressed people who actually struggle. It's white privileged liberals with so much guilt for your liberal status, or I mean for your privileged status, that you are dying to associate yourself with any type of struggle. And that instinct to associate yourself with struggle, I know, comes from the reality that you understand you're naive. Without struggle, you have less wisdom, which equates to less survival skills. So I understand the instinct of white people to constantly integrate with people who struggle because of the colonialism that privileges you, because you instinctively know you cannot survive without some wisdom of struggle. I get it. But you got to understand your patriarchy allows you to survive in other ways. You may not have to survive in certain situations, but you know what? White people all over the world, you guys are hunting. You guys are gathering. You guys have farms. You guys know how to live off of the land. You guys are not stuck in major cities. Don't know how to cut a chicken, skin a chicken, shocked at every little thing that's natural. Don't know how to milk a cow. A lot of you white people have the ability to survive because of your privileges, to own all the land and to be in these places and to live off grid without consequence, like a lot of y'all do. So y'all need to mind your white privilege business, because you white women want so bad to behave like men when you don't understand why. you you don't understand why black women, or women who come from oppressed cultures where there are no men and there is no masculinity and the men have been conquered, you don't understand why women behave that way. You do not want to be in a situation where you do not have male authority, because you will have to behave like a man. You will have to do everything on your own. You will have to take care of everything on your own. You will have to do a man's job and a woman's job in your community, in your household, at your work, in society. And you and if crossing your fucking legs and lowering your fucking tone and smiling and being polite is so hard for you, you don't like men. You want to have the struggles of masculine women in a society without men, because you don't like men. Because there's nothing harder than being a black woman, because our men are trash. Patriarchy is discipline. And this liberal shit, and these women, oh, when I stop doing that, these are behaviors that don't just belong to women in patriarchy. Like I said, black fatigue is because you have people coming from places where there's no standards for behavior or civilization. The men will sleep with women when they have nothing to offer and let the women do all the work, and he'll go off and do it again with another one. Where you come from a place where men have no dignity and no respect for themselves, you're forced to take on masculine qualities. And when you come from a culture where there's patriarchy, you know how to be civilized anywhere you go. And there's nothing more valuable than that. There's nothing more valuable to being civilized. So instead of looking at it as I have to submit to patriarchy, look at it as I was privileged enough to come from a culture that taught me right from wrong and that taught me how to behave in public. Because you when you say stuff like that, you low key you make yourself look bad, and you make white people look bad, because have some grace about your privilege. Like, have some grace about your privilege. Why do you have so much disrespect for white men who have done everything for you guys? What is your white women's problem? Buck breaking. Okay. So patatos patatos or toys says, what's your thoughts about studs? Again, live and let live. The studs that I knew and grew up with and everything were a lot more masculine than a lot of the men, you know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? Studs can be very necessary, but that's when you come from a place where there's not men. When you are in, this is why it's prevalent in black and brown communities under colonialism, because when the men are castrated and prevented from making money and getting land and doing the things that will allow them to marry a woman and start a family with confidence, you know what I'm saying? And they have to skirt chase and run behind women, because that's what slaves did. And because women are less of a threat, so they have to run behind women all of their life to accomplish anything, because they're afraid of their colonizers. You know what I'm saying? You get masculine women arising. You get women arising who are not going to deal with how pathetic the men are, who are not, and who are going to compensate. And that happens in nature. Horsefish, or what do they call them? The horsefish, the unicorn looking trumpet. What do you call them? Horsefishes, seahorse fish. The seahorse fish, it don't it when there's the they can change sex when one sex isn't prevalent. So what I'm saying is, studs is a um some people are studs, some people are born with sex organ complications, you know what I'm saying, where they have to have surgeries and they have to, things like that. But most of the time when you see a prevalence of masculine presenting women, you're in a society where the men are castrated. And the evolution of that is the compensation for lack of masculinity. And then the black community, that is extremely, extremely prevalent. When women who take on these masculine characteristics, and a lot of times it's because the girls are raised to have the traits that are going to help them survive their environment. And when you're white, you get to be raised, you have the privilege of being feminine and being raised with those feminine traits, and that helps you survive your environment. You want to have to fight men and do all this and do all that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wanted, oh, let's see, hagen thacker Hagen Thacker. It sounds Indian. Have you ever heard of buck breaking? Yes. And you say buck breaking is the part of history you're talking about. You find it super interesting. That's what, yeah. You buck break studs so they don't buck back and stuff. And so if when I think of studs, I'm thinking of the term for lesbian. But I think when you're talking about like studs, are talking about like the masculine man. I know what you mean, like buck breaking. Um, when colonizers do that to the men, and they eliminate the threat, and they keep the slave labor, or keep the lower class, which is essentially the slave labor that's going to keep things functioning. Yeah, you you eliminate the masculinity from the community, and the evolution of that is masculine women. um Dave Saviors. This is the kind of message teachers should be teaching in colleges, not their woke bullshit. No, then that's not gonna happen. There's all types of conspiracies and stuff. I went to DePaul, but you can subscribe to my channel and you can suggest content. I do interviews. I'm open to a lot of avenues, but like I said, I couldn't even get a remix done, and that's what happens when you're actually a targeted individual. But yeah, they never teach these things in school. So the and I wanted to give the lady an example, but I'll state it here. An example of what happens when you have lack of patriarchy is what happened at my job last year when one of the black women tried to fight me over one of the black guys who tried to date me. And as much racism as I've dealt with, there's never been a white woman who's put her hands on me and tried to fight me. But every job I've been at, except for the ones that are predominantly white, every job that I've been at with black women, there's been some black woman who's tried to fight me, who's wanted to fight me, or who I've had to fight. And this is what happens when you have lack of patriarchy. Women have no manners and no respect for themselves. And when there's lack of patriarchy, women like me who are actually feminine, women who men like and actually prefer, women who are privileged among men because we enjoy being feminine, and men respond to how much we actually enjoy our position as a woman. We enjoy our position as a female. When you enjoy your position as a female and you're not performing femininity because your femininity is genuine, and men respond to you differently, you get these unruly masculine women who are not feminine but still like men, who cannot compete with feminine women, wanting to fight. And femininity is constantly under attack. And this is something you white women don't have to deal with, that black women have to deal with all the time. Black women wanting to fight each other over men. It's not something white women do. There's plenty of men for you all to go around. But black women are always fighting over men. Good men, bad men, ugly men, light men, dark men, broke men, rich men. Black women are fighting over them. And that's what happens in matriarchy. There's nothing but jealousy among women. But as much as white women can be racist and this and that, every time I've been around white women, I've gotten promoted. I've gotten the solidarity from white women to get paid more, to be moved up in places. Not trying to fight me and take men that I don't even want. That want me when I'm minding my business. And this is what happens when there's lack of patriarchy. But I don't have to deal with that with white women, because white women know how to behave themselves. White women can be jealous of your beauty, this and that, but they'll make a politer, sly comment and keep it moving. Black women, they just want to fight. That's why like I had to be taught about people carrying razor blades in their mouth. I had to be taught about people wanting to throw acid on my face because I was beautiful. Did you as a white woman have to be raised to and warned that someone might try and throw acid on your face, or might try and cut up your face, or might try and do something to your face because you're a beautiful woman and you're too much competition because there's no men in the community and you would take all of them? As a white woman, do you want to have to deal with that? That's why you want to shave your hair and look like a man and talk about patriarchy, because you want to have to worry about acid being thrown on your face because you're more beautiful than all the other women in your community, or at least than most of them. You know what I mean? So it's just like, what is wrong with some of y'all white women? That you guys just are so desperate to have to deal with what black women have to deal with. Why do you white women hate white men so much? And this is why white women and black men have so much in common. Because white women and black men, you guys hate your counterparts so much. White women hate white men so much when they do everything for you. And black men hate black women so much when we do everything for you all. And this is why a lot of my experiences, and I have to talk about them, even though when my brand is essentially about elevating the black woman, the reality of it is it's black women can deal with white men and get elevated. And I'm not, do what makes you happy, but the reality of it is a lot of black women have very bad experiences with black men, and white women, you can't say that. A lot of you white women want to act like that, and you don't. You guys don't have bad experiences with white men. You just don't like white men. You prefer black men, just like black men prefer white women. And y'all come up with all these reasons, you know what I'm saying? And that's why you guys have so much in common. Because for some fucking reason, white women hate patriarchy so much, and black men hate matriarchy so much. Even though these things privilege y'all. Thank you, David. So I really, and it just really reminded me the stark differences between black people and white people, and why the liberal agenda tried to erase that to give white people some sense of value and purpose in their struggle. And I think there's nothing more racist than a liberal white person, because white people who aren't really racist and everything, you don't have to go to all these extremes to try and relate to people just because they're different. Respect people's differences. I don't I don't get how, you know why I don't get why modern women, when it's mostly white women, because you guys, why is it so hard for you all, for modern women, to enjoy behaving civilized? Why do you all have such a problem with your place in society? And I guess as things evolve, and like you said, and like they say the revolution will be televised. I guess y'all are just really getting back to some of y'all caveman traits. And black people were just, and now black women want to live soft lives. Black women are telling each other to go after rich men. Black and brown women, are trying to make sure that, each other doesn't date broke men, while you white women are shaving your hair, mutilating your body with tattoos and stuff, and complaining about having to cross your legs in public. So long story short, this is just an example of how, even though you want to talk about one subject, it all boils down to the stark differences between black people and white people, and the spiritual aspects of my brand, of us, of black people just elevating ourselves and staying elevated, because these white women are desperate to make their race look bad, the way ignorant black people do, because of a lack of discipline and a lack of morality. It's simple morals to want to go in public and be pleasant around other people and be civilized and dignified, and not to not be offensive. And constantly being offensive is what is associated with black women. And I get the freedom of being able to speak your mind as a woman when you're being oppressed. And black women come from oppression, and black women reach a breaking point much earlier, so develop the ability to speak our minds. You white women, you wait all your life, and then you get to your 50, and now you want to cut your hair and go your pink and pick it and this and that, because you never had to really be in a situation where you're actually oppressed. And then you have to go to work and get a little job, and then you have to experience a little sexism for the first time or something like that, and now all of a sudden you're oppressed. You know what I'm saying? But black women, we by the time we 3 years old, we are learning to speak our mind, because if we don't, we could end up in a situation where we could die if we don't know how to stand up for ourselves and defend ourselves. You white women, you're not dealing with that, and you don't want that smoke. You don't want that smoke. Um, did you get that assumption from up Corey? Oh, a white woman definitely took this chick's man. Oh. Yeah. Don't respond. Don't respond to people like that. Um, but you know, at the end of the day, you guys get what I'm trying to say. It all boils down to the how the liberal agenda um really does try to silence the voice of those who are actually oppressed, you know, by trying to steal our identity, literally by trying to steal the identity of somebody oppressed. I'm gonna have to learn how to make some of y'all moderators. But moving on, the next I removed him. I don't know if I can. I don't know. And all right, I just removed him from the chat. Um, yeah, and I think I was able to remove him from the chat and everything. So, um, so the next thing I wanted to talk about was the next reel that I saw was a young black brother, and it was on another black guy's channel also. But he said, "How do you feel about this video?" The video was a young black brother saying that you don't want to be 39, 40, or 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, um like broke, still renting, um still living paycheck to paycheck, um still putting in job applications, um still not married, um and he was urging people to get their life together, that you're not going to be young forever, you don't have forever to get your life together, and that you know who's going to date you, who's going to want to date you when you're 40, and who's going to want to hire you, and blah 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 blah. um and so I looked at the comments, and most people agree with him, some people didn't. I personally didn't. So I I might do another episode of things I've learned um since I did turn 40 this year. And I don't really talk about my age too much, but this is an instance where, because I did turn 40 this year, I I felt the need to respond to that, because now I understand why they say the youth is wasted on the young. I did not agree with what he said. And if I was not 40, I may have felt that he was right, but I honestly, I have to say that all all that trying to and all the pressure that not only society puts on you, that your parents put on you, and that you know just being an adult puts on, just having to grow up, and you know all this pressure that society puts on you to achieve something, especially by a certain age, which is a deadline. When you add extra pressure on yourself to achieve things that are unlikely, that are very hard, um, that you don't have resources for, that realistically can take years and decades to achieve, when you put pressure on yourself to achieve that stuff by the time you're 25, what's going to happen is not only are you going to get burnt out and probably depressed, the wor- what the worst what worse that can happen is when you pressure yourself to achieve unsurmountable things when you are black and when you come from poverty. And again, this goes back to race because it's very easy for someone to get married by the time they're 25 when the parents did it all. It's very easy for somebody to, go to college, graduate in 2 to 5 years. You know what I'm saying? So by the time they're 25, they have an entry level position or more because they have some type of white privilege. You know what I'm saying? So by the time they're 30, they can save up enough money, you know what I'm saying, or get a head start to being a millionaire. Or, by the time they're 30 or by the time they're 25, they can have a home and a nice home and they've traveled the world and they've met the love of their life because they're around other people who simply are eligible to get married because mom and daddy did everything for them. It's very easy when you come from privilege to have your life set for you by the time you're 25. It's next to impossible when you come from poverty. And for a black boy to be talking about age, which is something that doesn't, black people are so timeless and we age differently. And again, this goes back to understanding the African culture and principles. For you to really, you know, come from poverty and have to do everything by yourself, and then on top of that pressure yourself to have a deadline as to when you can achieve things that some people may never really achieve. And to this day, people who come from privilege, white people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s still haven't achieved and are still bagging groceries at Walmart because shit didn't work out for them. When you think 40 is a reasonable deadline, you know what I'm saying? I think that's great, but I think you're coming from a place of extreme privilege to not feel that it's going to take you years to get your life together. And I think, like, going back to what I was saying, what's worse than the pressure you put on yourself causing you have a burnout by your 25, and then maybe turning to drugs and alcohol or sex or gambling or other types of addictions that will put you in debt or health deficit, you know what I'm saying, or make you make a mistake like having a baby out of wedlock. You know what I'm saying? What could be worse than you burning out and realizing, that you can't do it all because you're probably doing it by yourself because you don't come from privilege. What's worse is that you do get married by your 25 because you wanted to be married by the time you were 25. What's worse is you do get that big house, and because you have a decent job, you know what I'm saying? Because you strive so hard to get that job because you wanted to get married by the time you were 25 because, 40 was some type of death sentence for you. What's worse is that you get all that by the time you're 25 and you end up like 60% of Americans who are divorced at 40 because they rushed perfection and they made decisions they weren't mature enough to make by the time they were 25. That could be worse than you going through an episode of burnout, learning your lesson, learning about life, and then by the time you're 30, recognizing what's actually important and shaping your life the way you want it to, not the way society tells you to, because you feel like turning 40 is a death sentence and you have to accomplish everything in the world before 40. When you're black and you come from poverty, that's fucking asinine. And this is why, to say that, you have to, I don't think you're really talking to people who are older than you. I grew up around people who were old enough to be my grandparents all of my youth. And none of them told me to, be a millionaire and do this and do that. All of them told me it was important to be educated. You know what I'm saying? But none of the women encouraged me to get married. Not one single, not the married women, not the white women, not the black women, not the older women. You know what I'm saying? None of the women encouraged me to get married. All of them told me to pursue my dreams and do this and that, and all of them told me that you can do whatever you want to do, and they played up how beautiful I was and how, you know, how to enjoy my youth. All of them stressed the importance of education and having healthy habits. A lot of them stressed the importance of having the right friendships and the importance of having a good relationship with God. None of them stress the importance of becoming a millionaire by I was 25. None of them stress the importance of getting married and settling down by the time I was 25. So, you know, understanding that marriage and romance is going to come and go, understanding that jobs are actually going to come and go, understanding that a lot of things come and go. You don't you I think what's best is to spend your youth being young. Spend your youth enjoying being young, and spend your youth training your body to stay young by eating healthy, exercising, doing activities, learning skills and sports and trades that will allow you to make money no matter what happens to the economy. Not trying, because if you think being young is what is valuable about you, then you know what I'm saying, then you're not going to be able to deal with the things that have nothing to do with your age. When the economy crashes and the stock market crashes and this and that crashes, it's not going to matter how old you are and what you did by the time you were whatever. You're going to have to be wise enough to roll with the punches. So to say that 40 is some type of death sentence when you come from poverty, I agree to not think you're going to be young forever, in terms of don't think that don't think the way you live won't catch up with you. But what I would say is maintain your health. So as you get older, you feel good enough to keep getting a job, to keep attracting people. Because let me tell you something. At 40, a lot of people will want to date you as long as you're still attractive and healthy. At 40, a lot of people will want to hire you as long as you have worked on your skills and look attractive and healthy. All right? At 40, a lot of people will rent to you as long as you have a job or multiple jobs and look attractive and healthy and decent. And and so when you focus on the right things when you're young, and not thinking that there's some deadline to achieve what society tells you you should have for whatever reason, you're going to enjoy being older. But when you think being 40 is some type of death sentence, you're going to rush your life, and you're going to make decisions that are going to make you regret, and you're going to spend your 40s in divorce court, or trying to go on a weight loss journey, or do all this or that. You know what I'm saying? Because you started families and you did all this, and you ended up in going through all these divorce things that people are going through because they wanted to fit into society when they didn't even know who they were yet. They were just trying to make sure they weren't still single by the time they were 40. God for fucking bid. You know? Um, Thank you, Pada. Thank you, David. Yeah, I've been putting my content out for like 10 years and stuff. But all in due time, like I said, there's a lot of conspiracies, but I just learned to ignore that and to just keep being consistent. So, as long as I do my part and I stay consistent, and like I say, I pace myself because I do a lot. I model, I do music, I work. And I have my brand, which includes homemade spiritual products and services, oracle consultations. So I enjoy doing these things, but word has to get out, and if I don't, who will? And I'm saying, some people it took 10 years for them to blow up. Shira 7, she started 10 years ago. She blew up like a few years ago. You know what I'm saying? But it took her years to really go viral. So it's about who's listening and who gets the message. And as long as the message gets to people, I'm still doing my part. Um, so I wanna just tell people what I would say. as someone who did turn 40 this year, what I would say is this: the best thing that you can do for yourself to be successful, particularly talking to black people and my sisters, the best thing you can do is get away from your toxic parents and your toxic family members that don't have the same goals as you, that aren't helping with you with your goals, that can't help you with your goals, and that hold you down and hold you back, and don't really relate to you. Get away from your toxic friends and or family members, and start to get friends and make friends who are aligned with your goals and your lifestyle. And don't look back. Travel. Study abroad when you go to college. That's what I would say. Study abroad. So you can go anywhere in the world. Don't um don't look at marriage and starting a family and having a home and all these things. Don't look at that as a status symbol so much as whether or not that's going to make you happy. If that is the goal that you have, then do it. But the last thing you should do is what this young man was doing when he made his video, which is comparing yourself to others. And what he was doing at a very young age was comparing himself to other people already, and saying and putting pressure on himself to be, if you want to be something, then be something, but don't compare yourself to other people, because then you lose sight of what makes you happy. And so I think what you should do when you're young is to avoid social media like the plague. Don't get caught up in social media, because once you get caught up in it, it becomes a part of your life, and it becomes a part of your business, it becomes a part of your brand, it becomes a tool that you need to function. But the less you when you don't use social media, you develop and you will be a part of a community that you can rely on without needing a device. And there's nothing more priceless than having community, real community. Um, you know, so find community. And that's why I say travel when you're young. Find communities that live in a non-Western way and that live healthy. Um, and again, I can't stress this enough. Maintain your youth and beauty. Being young is one thing, but you're every year, you're going to add a year to your age. So if someone asks, there's going to be another year there. But your youthfulness, your playfulness, your zest for life, your inner gaiety, enjoying the things that make you happy, um, being interested in new things, being innocent. Don't don't um don't let the don't lose your youth, because it's going to reflect in how you look, and don't lose your beauty. Do whatever you have to do to maintain your natural beauty. And it's not to say, I'm not saying do fake things to try to make yourself look younger than your age or look younger than your experience. What I'm saying is eating healthy, diet, exercise, walking, whatever things that you need to do, or whatever extra things you need to do, like taking the vitamin supplements, going to the doctor just a little bit more, getting a little more blood work done to prevent anything, drinking a little bit more water, or doing a little bit extra that you feel like you need to do to maintain your youth and your beauty and your youthful look. Maintain that, because the only wealth you will have when you really get older, which is 70, 80, 90, and I would say more so closer to 90, from the 80-year-olds that I know that are still kicking, and from my grandmother and good genes and all of that. You're not, when black don't crack, you don't really get old until you maybe 90. All right, and I got a white grandmother who's in her 90s, still kicking. So to it's okay to understand that you can start over, and you can have a youthfulness at any stage of your life, and it's never too late or too old to start over with things. Things can get more difficult and complicated, but the only wealth you will have when you get in your late 80s and 90s is your health. The only guaranteed wealth you will have when you actually do get older, if you make it to that, if you are blessed enough to make it that age. Unlike this young lad who's going to apparently die when he turns 40 because life ends at 40. And it's not worth living because, oh my God, once you're 40, life's not worth living if you don't have a house and a car and a career and a wife and kids. Oh my God. Yet, at 40, which shows you how warped people who are narcissistic about, how warped they think. Because whatever quality they have that can make them believe they're better than someone else, they'll play it up. So when he's 40, he's going to play up the fact that he's 40, but he'll be dating 20-year-olds if he's not married with kids or going through a divorce. You know what I'm saying? Because when you have that narcissism and all this and that, and you got to be the great and you got to be the best, and oh my God, this is, by the time he's 40, he's going to be looking for security through relating to people who are 20 because he values youth over character. So that's the other thing I would say. Maintain your health, because that's the only wealth you're guaranteed to have. Because you know what they say, when you're healthy, you have a million problems, but when you're sick, you only have one. So work on your character. And that's going to come from traveling. That's going to come from associating with different walks of life, so you don't think your perspective is the only one. So you don't think you being young and, so you don't think that that's the only perspective. And so you don't think there's only one way to do things, because this poor lad thinks that there's only one way to do life. And it's either be successful, but way before you're 40, which equals having a house and a car and a job and a wife, or you're screwed in life. And when you are so narrow-minded in that way, you're not going to develop the character needed to enjoy being older, so people actually like you and will overlook your age because you're pleasant and worth being around. You're high value. So I would work on your character. I would work on your education and your knowledge and wisdom, so you have something to offer when you're older, so people do see value in you. Now, if you want to get married, if you want to have kids, if you want to be a homeowner, fine. But a lot of older people, they don't want those things, and they don't have those things. And so to speak, as you get older, you may not want the responsibilities of a house. You may want to travel. Some people live on cruise ships. You know what I'm saying? Some people live in the forest. But you know what? They're happy because they're living the way they want. So what happens when you get older is you stop caring about what people think, and you start living the way you want. What I would suggest when you're younger is start living the way you want now, and stop pursuing someone else's goal. So anyone listening to me now, if you're in your 20s, like I said, as someone who did turn 40 this year, that would be my guidance for you. Focus on your health, your beauty, maintaining those things. Focus on your character and get as educated as possible, so no matter what happens in the economy, you know how to make money. Learn a trade, and make sure your friendships are with people who live the same type of life you live and have the same type of goals, so you never outgrow them as you get older. Make sure you have friendships that have longevity, because what's keeping you together is a similar interest. All right. If you are closer to 40 and you're listening to this, don't compare yourself to others. Turn off social media. Think about what makes you happy, and understand, if you're listening to this, you're blessed. Because if you're listening to this, you probably have a phone or you probably know someone who does, which means you're rich compared to a lot of people in the world who don't have anything. So count your blessings and understand your life is your life. You have to live it. Do not let other people's opinion make you feel a certain way or make you have like make you start some type of midlife crisis that wouldn't happen if you just stopped paying attention to what other people were doing who don't help you pay your bills. It is so imperative that you only take guidance, advice, and counsel from somebody who you admire and want to be like. So remember, at 40, you shouldn't want to be like a 20-year-old who thinks being young is the only thing to life. You want to be like who you are, who has survived what you've survived and has the wisdom to go another 40 years. And if you're closer to 60, you know what I'm saying, and you're listening to this, it's not too late to start over with whatever you're doing, but also understand too the way things work, and don't wait any longer to start shaping the rest of your life the way you want it to go. Because if you're, like I said, if you're closer to 60 and listening to this, maintain your health. Maintain whatever health you have, and maintain whatever relationships you have. Really find find um find your purpose and live that, and be okay with recreating and reinventing yourself, especially if you look good and you're happy. You know what I'm saying? And if you're closer to 60 and you're not, and you feel like, you know what, I disagree with you, I think the young man was right. um Look at the decisions that you made to feel like it was it that he's so right about, making sure that you accomplish things by your 40, by the time that you're 40. And if you feel that way, start to talk to the younger people. If you're 60 and you do happen to agree with him, then it's your job to get on there and agree with him as an elder. Because he does not have the right to say the things that he's saying. But if you're 60 and you agree with him, you have the right to say that, because you've lived it, to say what someone can do to prevent that. He can't tell someone how to prevent those things. He just thinks that it's his job to make sure he has all of that before he's 40, because he, in his warped mindset, believes that turning 40 is a death sentence and life ends at 40 for you. So if you're 60 and you agree with him for whatever reason, find out how to use social media if you don't know how to, and get up here and start telling your story and talking to the youth, so you can guide them how to not end up single and broke and bouncing around without a job at age 40. Be open. And if you're closer to 80 or above and you listening to this, congratulations, shout out to you. You know what I'm saying? If you like my stepmom and you 80 years old still kicking it, and like, I don't know if some of you seen that video. I have a video that went viral of my 80-year-old stepmom dancing at her 80th birthday, which was this year in April. And the comments just show, and I want you all to, once you're done listening to this, if you're 80, find that video, or I can put it in the comment section or whatever for you all. And understand that it is your duty to enjoy the rest of your life and to continue to show other people that life doesn't stop until you die. And the best thing that can happen to you is you make it to when you're 40 and you still have a chance to keep going and keep, because some people don't make it. You things happen. So, you know, you're, you know, if you're 80 and you're listening to this and you feel suicidal and you feel a lot of regrets and you feel lonely and your life isn't the way you want it to be and everything, like I said again, social media has warped people, makes people want other people's lives. But, also understand that it's your duty to enjoy the rest of your life. And I want you to understand too, there are a lot of 80-year-olds that get out, that are out and that are meeting people and having fun. And it get out of the house. If you're 80, and you know what I'm saying, if you're 80 and you do work and you have to work, you know, you may or may not have a reason to get out the house. But if you're 80 and you're feeling the sting of it, um get out of the house and meet people and get around people who are younger, because it energizes you to be around people who are younger than you, so long as they have respect for their elders. So, and another thing that I would say is, if you're 80, um don't do too much stuff. If you're 80 and you are still healthy, and you just are feeling like maybe lonely or isolated because you're at that age where people have like died, and you're starting to feel isolated from society, and it's harder to make friends and meet different people of your age group or whatever. Go different places. um there's a lot of things for senior citizens. But if you're healthy enough where you don't need accommodations, get out into places that aren't designed for senior citizens. Act as if you live your life like you're still 40. Don't get involved in too much senior citizen stuff. Get out there and meet people and see the effect that you have on people, and see that there's still a place in society for you no matter how old you are, because people enjoy the diversity of being around different age groups. So if you're healthy enough to be 80, get out here and socialize. Stop thinking about your dead husband. Stop thinking about woulda, coulda, shoulda. Stop thinking about, that child that you lost, or that miscarriage you had. Stop thinking about, oh, the divorce and I regret. Stop thinking about whatever makes you feel that you're lonely and you don't have a partner, or you don't have a family, or the people, if you're 80 and you're lonely, or get out get out into society, meet younger people, meet new people, see that there's still a place for wisdom. Don't don't spend the rest of your life mourning the past. Understand that you still have the rest of your life, and it's your duty to enjoy it, because you know um it, you may not die. Like, everyone doesn't die. Some people live and live long and keep living and keep living and keep living. Everyone doesn't die from old age. It can take people a while to die. And so if you don't start living in your 80s, like, I'm 80, I'm older, I'm a relic, but hey, I'm here, I'm still in the world, so I'm going to make an event about it, because like how my stepmom 80 dancing, that's an event for everyone. It gives everyone inspiration. And also what it does is it reminds people that life doesn't stop at 40. Life stops when you die, and you just might not just die. You might keep on kicking and keep on kicking and keep on kicking. So if you're 80, don't be sitting around waiting to die because you're mourning whatever the good old times. It's your duty to get out here and make good old times, and if not for yourself, for other people. If not for yourself, for the other people who need an elder in the situation to really bless it and support it. Be a blessing to others, be a guardian angel to others, pass on your blessings. If you're feeling lonely, get out here and give back and let go of the past. So, I think that I've said enough for today. Um let's see here. All right, thank you guys, David and Pata. for all your comments. Yeah, some people's life could even start at 40. A lot of people's does. This is why I feel that he's coming from a place of the, and while I understand his message, he was coming from a place of narcissism to say that if you're, and if you're 39 and 40 and you don't have this and that, because the wisdom of someone who's gotten there is that life doesn't work like that for most people. For most people, life doesn't work the way that we plan it. And we have to go, and this is why I said the most important thing for you to do when you're young and you're black is to get the fuck away from your impoverished, ignorant family. Because the reason a lot of people, especially in the black and brown community, are starting over at 40, and especially in America in general, the reason where people start over at 40 and are starting over at 50 and are recreating themselves at 60 is because you spent your whole youth appeasing family who put pressure on you to do things that they weren't doing themselves. And you become this hyper independent, hyper hardworking person who never pursued any of your goals because you were just trying to make sure that you had this, and that. And now you want to, now you want to do certain things. And like I said, that pressure was put on me. And it caused a lot of depression and suffering trying to meet standards, trying to let my parents live vicariously through me when they were doing whatever they wanted to do, instead of trying to, while they weren't trying to get a college degree, they put pressure on me. Why? So they can brag to people, or so they could feel like they weren't failures, when as an adult you're either failure or you're not, no matter what your child accomplishes. You because look at Michael Jackson. He, all that beating and pressure put on him to perform, and I just saw an interview when Joe Jackson was asking him for borrow $500,000, and he was just shaking his head. Yet that child will become that successful person who don't fuck with you when you put all this pressure on your children to succeed and you take away their childhood. And this young lad was thinking that taking away your childhood and pressuring yourself to achieve something by the time you're 40, you know what I'm saying, it is the best route in life. And there's no wisdom to that. And it made me realize that it's okay for me to talk about the fact that I turned 40 this year, because I have enough wisdom to let people know, like, I can now, because I thought the way I thought, but a lot of times when I was younger, people look at your youth, but as you get older, you can actually verify a lot of your own theories and conjectures with experience. And in my experience, your youth is best spent making friends, and learning the value of friendship, because there's nothing going to be more valuable when you do get older. And from someone who talks to people who are older, and it always has, like I said, when I was younger, all the people who were old enough to be my grandparents weren't pressuring me to get married and buy a home and do this and this and that. Now I'm talking about the rich white people who had those things for themselves and who knew I came from poverty. And I'm talking about a lot of people. Those aren't the things that they talked about. They talked about education. Because that's something someone can't take away from you. You know? Your health, your beauty, your education, your good character. Those are the things that matter. That's why friendships matter, because I think, you don't want to be in that narcissism of I have this and I have that, and everything in your life is an item that contributes to your status. You don't want to live like that. As you get older, you want to have places to go with people you love. You want to have something to do with people that you actually enjoy doing it with, and you're going to want to be healthy enough to do it. Those are the three things that are going to matter as you get older. So, that's, a lot of people find themselves recreating themselves in their middle ages, 40s, 50s, and 60s, because You were part of a family and a society and a community that you let live through you and pressure you to do something, and now you're realizing it didn't work. You're realizing it didn't make you happy. You're realizing it didn't work for you because it was never a goal that you wanted to do when you were young. I'm doing music now and pursuing that and those things because ever since I was young I wanted to do music. I'm a sommelier, that's great. I'm Black High Priestess, that's excellent. But those things are great for other people too. Those are qualifications that allow me to benefit other people also. When I was young and when I was a child, I never said I want to become a wine connoisseur. I never said that I want to be well, um I was always into witchcraft. I was always into spirituality. But I didn't really necessarily want to help other people with it. They were gifts that I knew that I had, and more so as I got older, like in junior high and high school, the more I dealt with oppression and the more I was educated, the more I understood that I had an understanding of the world that other people didn't have. And I wanted to be a writer, an author, but I never thought that I would be helping people with doing readings and stuff. I just thought that I would be an author and I would write books teaching people how to do spirituality, which I still am and do. But I wanted to do music. Like when I was young, I wanted to perform. When I was a little girl, it was my dream to model, to travel the world as a model. That was my dream job. I wanted to travel the world as a model and I wanted to perform music. Like Britney Spears and J Lo and Lil Kim and more, but like Brandy and um um Destiny's Child, and I wanted to be a performing artist. And so that's why at 40 I'm pursuing the dreams that I had as a girl, and I'm still working and funding my own things. Love doesn't, if people say, "Oh, like why are you single at 40?" Because I haven't met the love of my life. Because the men that like me and have offered, I'm not interested in them in that way. And the men that I've fallen in love with do not have mutual feelings for me, and their actions over the years have proven that to me. So love don't work out for everyone. By the time you're 25, you don't meet the perfect compatible match and fall in love and everything. Some people um have experiences where you have to start over in relationships because you have not found the person who's going to be a match for you long term, and allow you to enjoy your life and make your life better, and who's going to love you properly. That don't happen all the time, and that don't happen just because you meet someone and get married to them. Everyone wants a different type of relationship. So again, thank you guys for listening. But like I said, life is life, and everyone's life is not should not go the same because everyone's different, and you should be pursuing what makes you happy, not what other people tell you should have by the time you're a certain age. you know get to 40 first, and then tell people what they should or should not have after the economy crashes a few times, and there's 9/11, and there's a few wars, and half the people of the opposite sex have had a sex change. Live life a little bit and stop thinking it revolves around you having a house and a car, and stop worrying about what other people have. That's the main thing. So these were some full moon insights. I did want to, does anyone have a question before I log off? Because I was going to pull a scripture um to do a little spiritual message at the end of this. Oh, it's only hour 13, so I'm making good timing. I'm trying to make these a lot shorter. If anyone has a question, if not, let me just, this is page 236, 1 Samuel 2. 27. Prophecy against the house of Eli. That's the one I pulled. I chose your father out of all the tribes of Israel to be my priest, to go up to my altar to burn incense, and to wear any ephod in my presence. I also gave your father's house all the offerings made with fire by the Israelites. Um, page 236. Oh. Um, One thing I did forget to mention that's important, I would say, according to that page in the Bible that I pulled in that scripture, what's important as you get older is your relationship with God and, your spiritual practices. Um, why your spiritual practices and things that kind of keep you grounded but also keep you spiritual, having a good relationship with God is going to allow you to accept however your life does go, so you can also look at a spiritual effect of it too, and to not believe that everything you do is going to determine how your life goes. And like I said, I think the young lad was under the belief that if you set a goal and you set out to accomplish it, that you'll achieve it. And I think the message of it is that to remember that when you have a relationship with God, when things don't go according to your goals and you do have to start over, or you do learn harsh lessons that make you, realize you may have to go in a different direction, or things may not work out the way you thought they would, you're going to you're not going to have such a God complex, and you're going to put some of that pressure for things to go right on God as well. You'll take some of that pressure off of yourself, and you'll say, well, things work out in the highest good and the highest favor, but you'll understand that you don't really control everything in life, no matter what you set out to do. You can control what you can control. Peace, Habram. But if you believe that it's all up to you to do these things, and you got to do this and you got to do that and you got to grind when you're young, so by the time then don't, it's okay to believe that, but I think as you do get older, and if you are more mature, understand that, knowing that you're not in control of everything, and that you're not in control of everyone, will help you live a happier, more youthful, innocent life. You won't be so weighed down by feeling like you have to, implement so much morality. Live and let live a little bit, and let God implement morality. Let God make judgments. Let the spirit realm deal with what it needs to deal with, and you deal with what's going on in your life. But don't think that everything is in your control. Relinquish that control and give yourself some freedom to exist, and give yourself freedom to make mistakes. All right. Because that's how you learn. So I will talk to you all soon. Thank you for listening. Peace and love. Listen, learn, like, subscribe, and follow me on IG as well. Peace.